Maybe a good way to start is to talk about how I ended up deciding to work with Jeri. And I'm an employee benefits broker. It's an insurance broker for mostly health insurance. We do all company plans, but primarily healthcare. And I had a background in individual financial planning. And so I had this kind of diverse skill set that was starting to become more refined with the company that I've been working with for the past 8 years. And what happened was I went from purely sales into kind of a hybrid role of sales and management. And I got a good part of the sales process, and I got some of the management process, but there was no training, for example. And I'm a lifelong learner is a good way to put it. And I'll read any book that somebody puts in front of me if I think it's going to help, and I'll take a class, and I'll try all these wonderful things that are hopefully going to help me learn and give me an edge and accomplish my goal. And I've had some success with that. And when I met Jeri, we started talking about a way to kind of speed up that process. The idea that just trying to learn from trial and error was something that you could spend a lifetime and maybe not really reach the goal that you were striving for. So we started a program that Jeri led me through for the first 6 months we worked together, where it was a bit of self-study, some basic coursework that was directly related to management, to life skills, which are helpful interpersonal skills. And we'd meet 3 times a month for the first 6 months. And we'd go through the kind of the questions that were asked, and the dialogue that we had was more important, I think, than even just the studying. The studying I had to do. I needed to read that. There was information I needed to gather. But it's what happened after I read that for a week. I kind of kicked it around in my mind, and then sat with Jeri for an hour and talked about it and what came out of those conversations. And what started coming out was results, which, some right away, not the quantifiable ones, not right away. I can't tell you that my sales went up 30% in the first week or two that we were working together. That's not true. But what happened is I started realizing, how do I actually build a foundation to expand my business? And one of the things we started doing was realizing areas where I was kind of tripping over my own feet, is a good way to put it. I was working 12 plus hours every day, many days, many more than that, and oftentimes 7 days a week. And I didn't feel like I could take a day off, because there was that kind of nagging sense that if I took a day off, what's going to explode when I'm not there? And days off for me on a BlackBerry, the whole day long, with more of a knot in my stomach than if I was actually at work. And that's a lot of times why I wouldn't take time off, because I just would rather go to work because it was less stressful, even though that was stressful, than not being there. So that was one of the first things that we started realizing is, what's causing that? And what was causing that was a lot of fundamental structure to the way I was operating. And the key here is, I thought I was an organized person before that. My emails are always sorted. I have clean files. It's not like I have paper stacked up around my desk or my office. I'm very neat and orderly in that way. But where I'm talking about organization was in a much more efficient management structure. I have people that work with me. I have more people now after working with Jeri, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I had some people working with me at the start of this program, and I was essentially doing work that I should have been giving them. This is just a great example. Instead of saying, a task comes in, instead of handing it off and giving clear directions, I would just, let me do it myself, because I'll do it correctly that way and they won't screw it up. And part of the model that I saw Jeri put up here a little while ago, starting with empowering employees and then having them become the face of your company, and then the customer comes into play, that's kind of light bulb that one off. Because I started realizing that where I was successful was in that process. I was the good customer service advocate. I was the person that made the customer loyal because I was giving them all that high quality service, and everyone behind me, I was like, fax this and scan that. That wasn't really bringing them up to their capability, and it was slowing me down. So what happened over a relatively short period of time was I just kind of changed my thinking and started empowering them, if you will. I started giving them tasks that, in honesty, it was a little stressful, because I kind of, all right, here you go, try this, give them clear directions, and to my surprise, everybody that worked with me that I gave them a task, they would run with it. Now, I mean, I learned some things, like you can't give somebody a super complicated task if they're not trained on that, if they don't have the skill set. So, there's some common sense type things that come with this. But over a very short period of time, the people that were working with me started doing those tasks that were slowing me down, that were making me work all those extra hours, that made me feel like I couldn't take a day off. And after a number of months of that, what ended up happening was I had enough confidence in them that I could start doing the strategic planning, which all of us want to do in a business. How do we get new clients? What direction is the business going in? And I read the books. I've been reading these books, since I was a teenager, trying to figure out how to get to this, this pinnacle of, a career and whatever it is that I chose. And I started having that ability to do that. And what ended up happening is, my company has about 300 people. I started getting recognized for that. I got 2 promotions in about 12 months. And right now I'm a vice president, and that was, I thought I had at least 2 or 3 years from the first promotion. You might remember we talked about that. I remember saying it's going to be at least 2 or 3 years before the next promotion comes. And that's where, we're 6 months into it, the program I was working with Jeri, and just putting my head down and focusing on what I was learning, focusing on the business that I was doing together, it started having some traction. And then I guess it got noticed by the rest of the company. They added staff, revenues were going up. That's a point where I started recognizing that my commissions, because part of what I do is sales, were up by about 30%. But more importantly is I think it laid a foundation for where this is going to go. What's the greater vision of where I'm going to operate from. And I want to give you quantifiable aspects of what I benefit from working with Jeri, but also some of the other things are, in terms of attitude, are just tremendous. And it sounds so cliche when everybody says attitude is everything, and I find that it really is. With a company that size, not a huge company, not a small company, there is a culture obviously that exists, and there's a sense among most of the employees that we can't change that. That comes from the top. That's a top culture. And my attitude was always, no, I don't agree with that. I'm going to do it, and I would do it in my own little world. And what happened was I started doing it in my own little unit, if you will, and that started getting recognized, and we started getting more results. And people outside of the unit, if you will, started recognizing that, and it started having this kind of ripple effect that's starting to impact the whole organization. So that comes from, I knew it, it comes from a combination of knowing it, it comes from a combination of interacting the dialogue with, the belief that, yes, I know it, and I thought I was doing it, and talking with Jeri, and she pushed back on me and challenged me and say, how are you really, working with that? Are you really practicing what you preach? And then the common sense things of how do you lay that foundation for a business to grow?
That's fine.
So I obviously think very highly of Jeri. I will say this, when I decided to work with Jeri, and I'm sure you remember this very well, very mathematical in my thinking. It was all return on investment. And there's a risk that's associated with that. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try this, I'm going to work with Jeri, and I'm going to give it some time and see where it goes. And it's been paying off. And the nice part that I really like about this is that I could see this incremental growth, if you will. I feel like I'd be short-sighted to just say it's a 30% commission increase because I could see how this is compounding into much larger and broader things, and it's opened up a whole area of opportunity that I didn't think I previously would be accomplishing at this point. So.
Yeah, one of the things I think you told me was the growth of your department, right?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned a figure of, you said about 150%?
Yeah, about 150% growth. Yeah. And that's compounded with new business, that's compounded with the support staff that goes with that, and it's compounded with the buy-in from the senior management that supports us on that. Because, and I don't want to get into the structure of the company because it's just detailed, but to get to that growth, they have to believe that it's worth investing in the work that we're doing, and they're backing it. And it seems, to some days, it seems like when I come with them with new ideas, they seem excited in a way that I had never seen them excited before because maybe they're starting to see that we're coming up with some insights that benefit the whole firm. So.